Hello everyone and welcome back to Millicraft and welcome back to the Gray Box. In today's episode we are going to be going over making pathways. Pathways can be very simple, as in one block palettes, or they could be super complicated, doing 6 or more block palettes. In today's episode we're just going to go over some of my favorite 1 to 4 block palettes. You can steal these for your own world. Make sure you leave a comment below which ones you take. I would love to hear about it and what block palette paths you like to use in your worlds. Let's get started. As you build up your Minecraft worlds, perhaps you realize that all of your builds are kind of disconnected and kind of all over the place. Maybe you just fly back and forth between them. Maybe you don't even think about walking between your builds. However, to make a good cohesive city or village or whatever it is that you're building, paths are the most important thing to be able to connect them up. And behind me, you see a field of path blocks that I have set up for our palette today. Now, these path blocks range from 1 type of a block, mixing in with 2 types of blocks, 3 types of blocks, and up to 4. Now you can do way more than 4 if you want, but I'm gonna work with you on how best to build up your pathing, being very simple at first, like path block simple, and then working your way up by adding different textures along the way until you have a very colorful range of blocks that you will have at your disposal for any kind of build that you're building. And I didn't go through all the different block palettes that I've got. I have so many more block palettes and you can make your own as you go. As I said, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to know which ones are your favorites, but let's get started on the very basics because we're gonna start from square one, like literally square one right here with the path blocks. So square one, path block itself. The path block, or the dirt path block, is your most basic path to get you from point A to point B in your world. And as I said, it's a path. What's nice about these things is that you can trample on them all you want. It's not going to change. They are non-spawnable blocks because, as you can see, they're 1 pixel shorter than other blocks, which is kind of handy. They don't grow grass. Well, the only downside is this. If you put another block on top of them, they will grow that extra little pixel, and then it becomes dirt again. So that's the only downside about path blocks, but maybe not. Maybe because you want to get rid of them at some point, this is pretty easy to get rid of and put back. What we can start to do, though, is we can start to make our path blocks a little more fancy by putting other blocks around them. So in the case of a path that you want to make maybe a little wider, we can use this coarse dirt. It kind of represents the well-worn path that you walk every single day, and then the dirt offshoots, the little bits of pieces that don't get worn down as much, but sometimes there are footsteps and that sort of thing. And it keeps a nice border between you and any grass blocks so that the grass doesn't grow into this area and destroy the path that you have created. Now, building onto that, you can add in some other textures to be able to give us even more texture and life to this as well. So say we had our path here, we have our coarse dirt, but we can also add in some rooted dirt here and there to show where the grass has started to creep in, or maybe this is where the grass has started to die out as you've walked along it a lot of different times, but it gives you just a little bit more of a color texture difference. Building onto that, we can even go further with these path blocks. And we'll take our dirt, coarse dirt, we'll take a few of these rooted dirts here and there, and then we're going to do the podzol. We're going to kind of just put them around these little guys, just here and there. Not a lot of them, just enough so that it kind of gives you this feeling like this is where the leaves keep getting pushed and shoved out of the way as people walk back and forth along this path. Now that we have the very basic kind of paths that you can do, you can build on top of this, and you can also use other blocks versus just path blocks. Now, the most important thing about doing this, however, is to keep in mind that whatever block that you use is not going to get overridden by grass or mycelium or any other growable block. So it needs to be a block that is going to stay in the same state all the time. And coarse dirt is perfect for that. So once you have a basic idea of what the path itself is going to look like, then you can start mixing in other colors. So for instance, if we have our coarse dirt in here, we're gonna reach back to this rooted dirt that I had in the previous example. And we're gonna kind of give it a little bit of a breakup here and there so that there's a little bit of color difference. You can kind of see the path, and if this was grass all the way around, it would be pretty obvious what it was. Now, we also can add another block in here to give it even more texture difference. So if we have our coarse dirt in here, we have a little bit of this rooted dirt, then we can add in like a jungle wood to give it some of the same color textures, but then you know humans have been here. Humans have been here to create this nice little pathway. Now that you have this kind of like really old-fashioned run-down sort of road, we could have it even more worn down by adding in a fourth block. So if we take our base palette here of our coarse dirt, we know this coarse dirt is all over the place. We have little bits and pieces of this kind of growth or decaying kind of road. We know that there is a path that comes through here with the wood, and then maybe we think that some of this wood area has actually gotten really trampled down and packed with some of the mud from the sides, and that is what the mushroom block can be, the brown mushroom block. All right, let's break into stone. Maybe you don't have a lot of the coarse dirt yet. Maybe you're tired of breaking all of your wooden shovels to make dirt paths. Maybe you have a lot of cobblestone, and that's where you're going to put all of your effort in to making paths with basic cobblestone, which actually is not a bad thing at all. Like, you can make a really nice, I mean, it's called cobblestone roads for a reason. Roman roads still exist from thousands of years ago that were built out of cobble. And there's a reason why it's one of the stronger blocks in the game. I mean, it's strong stuff. It lasts for a very long time. So there's absolutely no reason why you can't make cobblestone roads. So what we can do, though, is we can mix up that cobblestone by having different types of cobblestone. So if we have our little thick path in through here, we could have some of the mossy ones that would lead it into the grass. So kind of flopping it into the grass here and there. We could put a little bit more of the cobble around. You can kind of give it this like path look by like mixing up the different types of cobble. But mostly this is going to be more of a naturally older looking path. And then as we add other blocks into this palette, we can actually go, okay, maybe this road has been around a very long time and it wasn't always cobble. Maybe they tried to fix it up with brick at one point. And then maybe some of the areas of this road are more worn or less worn than others. And we mix in some of these other stones. So we have our mossy stone bricks where someone's tried patch jobs, and then we've got the mossy cobble and then the regular cobble where it's been just trampled on a lot over time. And then if you want to get really complicated with it, you can add in some of these little moss bricks. So some of these things mean they've kind of walked on this surface a lot. We've got some of these areas with the regular cobble. I'm going to kind of mix this in a little bit more. So this area has been a little more well worn because you can kind of see that it's not as dirty as the rest of it. But then on the outside of this path, maybe there's some grass or moss that is starting to creep in from the sides onto this road and is starting to overgrow this road. So this combo you've seen before in my gradient video, but it looks just as good as a road. As for our next road, maybe you finally have Silk Touch, or you just have a lot of stone on hand and it's time to start paving. And I always think that actual like stone roads like this are perfect for paving. So pavement, the actual cement pavement, looks really good as just plain old stone. But as is all different kinds of cement and pavement, it can get worn down over time. So let's take our paved road, which is represented here by plain old stone. We'll make it a little wider here. And then we've got some skid mark or some kind of wear and tear that's been happening on this road, and you can add andesite to make it look a little rougher. This is where it'd be a little patchier, where maybe in a year or so that this is going to come up and make a pothole because it's starting to get worn down so much. And then if we want to add even more oldness to this road, we're going to kind of come back in here too. And we've got our stone. We've got our andesite where it's starting to get a little worn. But maybe it's starting to really get worn in places too, and that's when you can add gravel in. So now it's really starting to get broken down, but you have just a little bits of the cement and a little bit of the andesite mixed in. And then I'm really digging this pale moss block, so I'm going to add this into this road design too. Even though it's a little different in the color, we're going to play around with it just a little bit, just so you can see what you can do with this. So we're going to put down our cement. We're going to say this center part of this road has really started to get worn down right in here. And then maybe this moss is starting to creep in areas around as well. So this is what the moss is kind of representing, where like it's starting to break down even more and it's starting to revert to the grassy areas. Now that we have a lot of the natural stone, natural dirt blocks, let's move on to more man-made roads. And back in the day, back in the 1900s or even earlier in some places in the world, wood was actually used as wood construction. And you still see it today in a lot of decking and in like more nature trails, that sort of thing. But wood, just plain oak, might be what you have a ton of supplies of. So let's take a look and see how you can kind of mix this up by using a lot of your different wood types to kind of build up a road that you maybe you don't have any other reason for using birch planks. It actually has a kind of a really cool texture to kind of break it down a little bit here and there. So let's say over time, your wood road is starting to get bleached by the sun as it starts to decay. And then as it gets to be even more decayed, it starts to fall apart here and there. So if we take our oak road, oak pathway, and then we see that some of this is starting to kind of break down. We can kind of add in this sand where this is bleached out, it's old, it's sunny. This would be a good pathway for a desert area or a a mesa area where it's starting to break down over time, and maybe you've gotten a lot of bleached sands. Maybe sand has started to creep in to your area for your paths, and maybe that sand has been dug in so deeply into your road that it even starts to kind of become a hard sandstone type. So if we kind of take your sand has started to creep in. Some of this area is really starting to get worn down. And we kind of have just this encroaching colors of sand, kind of little bits of patches now. Like the oak is just the patches that are left over, or the few little spots of wood that remain dark while the rest of it is starting to bleach out to this sandy color as the dunes or the sand blows in. My next palette runs on the assumption you might have some other kinds of wood, and if you've seen Craftworks Season 3, you may have seen this block palette around quite a bit actually, because we decided let's go acacia. We had a lot of orange, and why not? Why not make a road a vivid, bright color? So in that case, we decided to take orange terracotta and then some of our orange. So you can use any wood type, honestly, not just the oaks. You don't need to go fancy with these roads. You can make them as interesting as you want. Now in this case, the terracotta is more of like a solid portion of the road, or the part of the road where the acacia planks have slowly worn down over time, and you don't really see their texture anymore. Or maybe we're going to add in some of the acacia wood as well. Just like this, because we have a little bit of this wornness. This is kind of like the first step of worn from this, and then we have it even more worn down with the terracotta. And then you want to go a little fancier, and you want to have a few other colors into this road. We can even do this really cool copper. So this is the area that is being worn down the most. This area is a little less worn down. This is a little less worn down, and then this is the areas that have started to get patched because all they had for some reason was this copper, and now we have this nice tink tink sound that you can walk over, and it gives it a really cool effect. Like, this is a shiny patch job that is like nobody had enough of these supplies, and now they've patched it. And in our server, we don't use these copper too much, but I will give this gradient to Blazer for Hire. Check him out. His link will be in the description below, because I think this gradient that he developed was really cool, and I've been using it a lot. So next up, we're going to actually look at more man-made roads. So in the olden days, path blocks, dirt that's being compressed down, cobble that people have like used picks and such to break up stone and just have laid it down into the roads, cement as they got even more developed, old-fashioned kinds of wood roads, and now we're talking like brick roads, because bricks were actually a viable road building material for a very, very long time, and in some cities they still use bricks in older areas of town, and they will even replace these bricks and keep them in place just so that we still have this historical kind of road turf. But let's say these bricks have definitely seen better days, so you can actually mix these bricks if you need some other colors into these with a little bit of granite here and there. So you can come in here and you can kind of see where the raw granite looks like it's, oh, these bricks are going to need replaced very, very soon. Some of these could also be added with some of your terracotta, which has a very similar color tone to it. So let's say we've had some wear and tear, and then someone came along and lazily put in some random patches, and the patches are the same color, but they're kind of ugly looking. So that's what that can be. And then I'm gonna mix it up again. I like using other non-conventional blocks to make my roads, and I have been really enjoying using these kinds of copper in some of these, besides the fact that it's fun to walk on with the sound effects that it makes. It's also kind of fun to kind of build it into your build. And we're just going to kind of take some of those out. We've got a couple of these patch jobs here. This is maybe worn down a little bit more. And then this green is starting to kind of come into it too. And you have a little bit of this different color gradients in amongst all of these different blocks. All right, because I wanted to prove that you can use just about any block for a pathway, let's use this mangrove. Now, mangrove's pretty expensive unless you have like a tree farm or something, but say you were building in a mangrove swamp and you just have a ton of mangrove that you don't need. Let's take a look at how this red block would be really good in kind of a fantasy build, and or, you know, like another build if Fire Tick was off, or maybe like a Christmas build or something. We're going to actually pair it with netherrack, which I know is kind of an unusual pairing. But if we blop these out like this, that went too far, and use your netherrack as your side portions, you have a really cool looking road. Like, and it looks like, I don't know, carpeting. You could even reverse these so that the netherrack is on the inside and the mangrove's on the outside. You can make a stripey road if you wanted a kind of a lollipop road or something. But look at that, how like the wear and tear of the netherrack really looks good with this mangrove. And if you want to keep adding other textures to this, so say we have our netherrack here, then we have some of this. We could kind of break it up a little bit and then have some of this wear and tear added in. And plop in some of this too. And like, look how neat of a road that would look. That would be a very cool road to have in like a patchwork quilt area, or as I said, a Christmas village. Let's lighten it up even more. So we're gonna put some of this netherrack in as our like base path. Let's say we've got some wear and tear going. We've got some lighter blocks in here, and then we're just gonna kind of sprinkle in some of these blocks with red terracotta as well, and play around with the textures. See how well you like it. Like, see whether you like the darker areas or the more well-worn areas. Maybe it's gonna be these lighter ones. Maybe you're gonna use a nice pathway full of lighter woods and lighter block colors to kind of mix this in and make it really mesh for your build. This last palette, before we go into some tweaking, I would be remiss not to show it because of the fact that even though it's a hard one to come by and it's a hard one to kind of build and get all your supplies for, some of these are harder and easier than others, is the packed mud, because packed mud is just, you know, by and large packed mud, and it's very cool to have for roads in general. So I couldn't like not cover this one. But as you kind of go with the packed mud, you can add in all of your different kinds of packed mud varieties. Yeah, I mean, just listen to those blocks. It sounds really good. And if you wanted to make more of a path, you could mix in some of these packed mud bricks and just have a really nice path to walk on, a very nice sound. And then what's kind of fun is you can start to add in other kinds of textures to it. And I actually did this on a floor design not too long ago, not just a path, but I would totally do this as a path too. But I have a little bit of this packed mud, you have a little bit of this brick in here, and then I added in some of this light gray terracotta, which you can actually find naturally in a mesa, so it's not that hard to come by. But you can kind of see right in here and in some of these bricks, there's that like little bit of a more pinky color, and then you can kind of see like that like more browny pinky color in with the terracotta too, or the other light gray terracotta. But the reason I have this weird like difference in shades all of a sudden is to add in dripstone block. So I found when I wanted to have like an old floor or an old path that has been worn down over time, we're going to have our bricks to represent the original road, the packed mud to represent where it's starting to get worn down, some of the light gray terracotta where it is started to, you know, get even more worn down. It's very smooth. And then dripstone block to kind of give it a border. And this would be a really cool kind of mesa road because you're using different colors than the mesa would have. I mean, a little bit of the gray and such, but if you had regular terracotta around or the orange colors, this kind of road would really stand out in those areas without too much problem. All right, to long-time viewers on this channel, you might recognize some of these block palettes from my gradient build. Now, we're gonna go a little different, and we're actually gonna build upon these road ideas that I have down here. But feel free to screenshot, feel free to pause it at this point to pick out your palette. You may have noticed, except for in the very first palette over on the far left side, I have added in at least one block type that can also have half slabs and stairs. And this is kind of important for what we're going to do next. So when you're building a road, you do not have to go flat. I mean, I've gone very flat, obviously. But you can always build up and make things a little fancier by adding some additional textures. So let me show you what I mean by this particular texture right in here. Now, mind you, I don't have half slabs in these first few examples, but once we get up into this area, we have jungle wood. So let's take a few of the additional bits and pieces that can go flat on your road in a jungle wood build. And then we can see what that would look like in your builds. So you can add different kinds of blocks. Now, some people like to use these half slabs in their roads. It gives it more of a worn down look. I don't like them as much, but what I do like are these stairs, and you can just walk over the stairs. You can add buttons to make them look like little stones. You can add these pressure plates to give it a little bit more depth, but adding in just this little bit of texture will give you a whole different look to your road. And you can even do like some borders along the sides with the half slabs. You could even make roads with half slabs if you wanted. You can put some of these pressure plates down. You can use some of these buttons on some of these other surfaces. And look at the difference now of the textures we have here and here as in comparison to some of the textures you have in these areas. So let's go on, and we're going to do this to a few more of these palettes to show you what other things you can do to dress these roads up. So as you can see from above, adding in just those little tiny things to build more depth made a big difference in the rows 2 through 5 in comparison to the ones I haven't touched yet. The last 3 could also have those little added features, those little stairs, the little slabs, the little buttons. You could add in grates, you could add in the curbs, You can add in all of that different texture. You could add in other colors. I didn't even bring in deep slate into this because I thought it would be too close to the gray box. So a deep slate or a black stone would be awesome. A road built of basalt would be really cool too. This is only just a few of the different kinds of varieties that we could possibly come up with. If you would like to see more road gradients and road types and ideas in the future, let me know in the comments below. I am running out of time to get this video done, so I wanted to give you some ideas of what these kinds of roads would look like in these situations in the gray box. Now, I did not even really touch what they would look like in a real life situation. So let's go take a look at just a couple really quick. Here are a few different paths, and I decided to go with some interesting ones. So let's take a walk along our in real life sort of path to see what this would look like. Now, as you can see, I added flowers. We have the jungle wood. I actually added hidden lights underneath some trapdoors. We have these pressure plates. I have like the stairs where things have kind of worn down over time. I've added in some of this leaf litter, which is really awesome. It actually can blend some of your coarse dirt in with this jungle wood. And I kind of did that around these areas. You can actually plant plants on top of some of these items. So we can put, some of our firefly bushes around. We can put some of our ferns or grass and flowers around. And it just looks so good in this kind of setting. So this is a very base path, nothing special. But then I wanted to show this wood pathway, which also, again, I used some of this gradient with being able to use some of this leaf litter, which I didn't even go through that over here. So, this is some more advanced techniques in here, but we put in some hedging along all of these. I put in a little bit of fence posts so we can have some lighting along here, since in this example, we don't actually have any lighting in the road. But then we get into some of the weirder stuff. So some of the weirder stuff we have going is this is the brick road, but I also added in some of our copper lighting in through here. I added a little wall sections of the bricks and put some lamps in here. And then I started to make a gradient into this deep red color. Like I said, don't be afraid of using color. Don't be afraid of going crazy with it and being vibrant. This is not a real world that you're building in. This is a Minecraft world, so you can do whatever the heck you want with your roads. But I added some of the leaf glitter to kind of do a little bit of blending. Then I used some of these lighter red terracottas to kind of blend in with the regular terracotta and the bricks. And then slowly but surely, this red takes over, and I also kind of did a little bit of terraforming and with the colors, so we have some more grayscale. And as you can see, this would be a very vivid, bright path that could go through a pale oak forest or a Christmassy, wintry one or something along those lines. But if we take a look at our paths from above, you can kind of see where our palettes match with what we have here in the world and how nice it looks in each of these situations as you go. And I didn't even this would be a perfect one for the sandy situation, but I wanted to show what it would look like if you're building a prairie. But feel free, play around with it, steal these ideas, take them for your own, and let me know about them. I hope you all enjoyed today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you've gotten this far, please give me a subscribe. I'm so close to 2,000 subscribers. And I would love for your name to be on that list too. If you'd like to become a member, I do put out videos once a week, and occasionally they get out early if I remember. It's mostly if I remember. But you also get some priority things and some extra special emojis, and you just find out when I go live on those rare occasions that I actually pop up and go live. But that's going to be it for me in the gray box. I hope you're having a fabulous new year, as I know this is going up in the new year or the day after the New Year's Day. Yep. And I love you all very, very much. Give yourselves a hug from me. Let me know which one of these gradients you stole and which ones you like and have improved. And if you so want to, we have a Discord, and there's a link to it in the down below. It's the Craftworks Discord. I run the Craftworks Discord. I don't run one for myself because I run that one. So come on aboard, share your builds, and let me know which ones that you've used in your world, or whichever paths you use. Like, if it's something completely different than any of these, I'd love to see it. Maybe we'll have a Path Block 2 episode in the near future, who knows. Let me know if you have any other ideas, and I will see you next time. Bye everyone. Bye from the Gray Box.